You know, it seems that a lot of people struggle in their relationships, difficulties with their marriage, workplace relationships, even with their friends. So why is that? What can we really do to change this? Today's guest may have some thoughts on the matter. Brian Slipka knows a little bit about it. He's a highly successful business owner who joins us now from Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's owner of the True North family of companies and author of Win Some: 5 Proven Strategies to Win in Relationships. Brian, thanks for joining us today on Bridge City News.
Grateful to be here. Thanks, Hal.
Now, Brian, your father asked you a very compelling question, sadly, on his deathbed. Let's talk about that, and how did it really prompt you to reevaluate your own life?
Yeah, well, the funny thing about that situation and moment is that we don't often think about dying as a rebirth in the moment, right? And my father, who is a successful military leader, small business owner, but very humble human being, very selfless. He was on his deathbed dying of cancer in a pretty young age, his late 60s. It's about 11 years ago. And meanwhile, here I was in my early to mid 30s, and was having a lot of earthly success, was having a lot of business success. I was running some significant business units, making a lot of money, traveling all around North America and certainly the U.S. And I went and visited my dad almost daily on his deathbed. So here my father is in hospice. His eyes are becoming jaundiced, Hal. As you can just tell, the process has begun for his life here on earth to come to an end. And he was very comfortable with dying, by the way, which I think is a testimony to his faith and his belief in Christ and the gospel and the promises of the gospel. So that was awesome, right? But here I am, the mid-30s business guy, happily married of now almost 25 years, but at the time 10, 15 years of marriage, 2 beautiful kids, traveling 200 days a year away from my family, but in a very prominent role and doing really well from an earthly sense, right? So I'm on my dad's deathbed, and I had come home, I'd gone and visited him over the lunch hour, and this story is so powerful, deeply personal. I'm complaining to my dad, during the workday, and he stops me, and this is the moment, right? He stops me and says, "Brian," again with his jaundiced eyes, and he says, "What on earth are you chasing? What on earth are you chasing? You have everything from an earthly perspective, but what are you chasing? Because you gotta get it, man. I'm gonna be dead. I'm gonna be leaving this earth here in a few weeks. You have to figure it out." And so that was really the moment that really began this transformation in me from an earthly standpoint. I was a Christian. I love the Lord. Our families we have a strong faith, but it really did cause me to reflect on what I was chasing here on earth professionally, and that really led to a lot of other things that ultimately led to the True North family of companies, as well as the book Win Some.
Now, you used the life of a fictional ball player, Sam Masterson, to reflect the win some relationships, Brian. Now, despite having status, Sam feels like a failure. What motivates Sam to be open to making some major improvements in his life?
So the thing about Sam, the protagonist in the book Win Some, that is so powerful, is I'm a mild version of Sam. And for all the folks who read the book, when you're reading it, just think of me, the author. I'm a mild version of Sam, and that's why this is so deeply personal. Because we all have, whether in marriage, as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a colleague, we all have moments in relationships where we have strife and where we have adversity. And it really comes back to the question my father asked: "What are you chasing?" And we can be chasing temporal things in the moments of the day, right? However, like Sam in the book realized, when he was focused on himself and his selfish thoughts and motives, even if he wanted to be and show love to others, if his focus wasn't on those others, it was met with peril and met with frustration and regret. And so the book is so deeply personal as far as how we all can relate to how that impacts us in different ways. And so the hope and promise and the prayer for for everybody in the book Winsome is that you read it and walk away with this through this fictional story where you're thinking like, wow, I actually have a recipe to handle adversity and situations better so I can have more deeply meaningful personal relationships that transcend the circumstance.
So, what do you think is at the root of Sam's failure to really connect with his loved ones and other people?
Well, I think honestly, it's that he's chasing the right end game, but he's not processing the method in order to actually achieve the end game. So, in other words, in Sam, he's a professional baseball player. Just to give you some insight for folks that are thinking about reading it, he's a professional baseball player. He's aging. He's getting injured a lot. So now he feels like he's disappointing his team. He's disappointed his agent. He had some family issues where he lost his wife. Unfortunately, she passed away, and he's got a son at home, and his son's a teenager. So he felt like he disappointed his wife. He's still grieving that. He's disappointed his son, who's a teenager who needs his father. He's disappointed his dad, his son's grandpa, through different circumstances. And so through it all, he's got this underpinning of stress, just like we all can relate to in life, no matter where we're at in life, no matter what age, no matter where you are, whether you're a teenager or whether you're a grandpa. All these things people can relate to. The problem with Sam, though, is that he's focused on the circumstances, not the outcome. And when you focus on the circumstances, not the outcome or your desired outcome, what you find yourself doing is falling prey to our sin nature. And so the 5 tools that we really talk about in the book that Sam goes through in a very natural process through a mentor is he learns how to handle things a little bit differently as he approaches situations. And that's really the power in the book.
Yeah, we'll talk about those tools in just a few moments here, Brian. But Sam strikes out not so much at the plate, but relationally with families and strangers. But it's an encounter with a cashier that really changes things. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So, in the book, we've all can relate to this, but he's a quasi celebrity, right? So people know who he is, and he's going through he's with his son, and he's going to pay for groceries, and he's just he's irritable, and for a variety of reasons, and he makes some big mistakes with how he handles a situation with the cashier, and he loses it. And it's caught on tape. It's not caught on video. So imagine all of us in our darkest moments, our weakest moments, whether public or private, something like that happening, right? So in Sam's case, he has a very public meltdown that causes a ripple effect of carnage publicly, right? And that is really the tipping point for him to understand. And it's unfortunate it has to be a public event, but I think we all can relate in our lives the moments where we have regret. And if not publicly, oftentimes it's easy just to bury it and move on. And so public events are not, unfortunately for Sam, it was, in the moment he was upset, but fortunately for Sam, it was public. So it made him do an about face and get his act together. And so I think just reflecting on how that relates to all of us is extremely important.
Now, a baseball colleague by the name of Mike helps Sam by introducing him to the win some concept. So how does he really build trust with Sam, therefore equipping Sam to build trust with other people?
Well, he meets this clubby Mike, and a clubby is basically the guy who helps in the clubhouse with laundry and with all sorts of things. Builds trust with the players just by getting their stuff done, so he's not a person of high esteem or rank. However, he does have respect. And so in a moment of need, Mike's there to help Sam out with just some mundane tasks. But in the process, they have this deep conversation where Mike asks just a few questions of Sam. And that's where the relationship really starts. And now Sam realizes that Mike doesn't have a hidden agenda for himself or self-serving purpose like, frankly, he has in all of his thoughts. And he starts to realize that, man, Mike is really just trying to help me. And so that really begins the process where Mike can teach Sam the five tool framework of really recalibrating your brain to handle situations better, ultimately leading to deeper, more meaningful relationships.
Now, most of us learn very early on in life, Brian, if you win, then I lose. Or in Talladega Nights as well, if you ain't first, you're last. But you're saying this is not necessarily the case. Why do you say that?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question, Hal. I mean, we are a society where it's win lose, and frankly, even in the business world, we're in a situation. There needs to be accountability. You need to affect and execute, and I'm a firm believer of that. But when you're talking about relationships, real relationships, there's this notion of separating business from personal and all that stuff. Just like people try to separate their faith. I mean, dear Lord, I mean, like the faith is the ingredient of your entire life. It's not a separation of like, hey, now I'm with my work. I'm my work mode on, or now I have my church mode. I mean, that's kind of the point of this book, is that there is no winning or losing or compartmentalizing of things like building relationships, just like the faith foundation, right? And so, really, what we try to espouse, and that's why it's called win some, is that you don't have to win anything to win everything in relationships. Think about that. You don't have to win anything in relationships to win everything in relationships. In other words, if you're chasing a win-lose scenario, like that's a flawed approach. The approach ought to be coming alongside folks and building in relationship in different ways, trying to help, serve, sacrifice, and then is when you win everything. Like whether it be trust, deeper relationships, etc.
And it's really about the journey as well, isn't it?
It really is, and even from like a father or a son or a colleague, I mean, it's so relatable.
So, Brian, what's really needed if we intend to serve others with a win some attitude?
Well, the book talks about the 5-tool framework, and real quickly, it's the baseball analogy is you grab your bat, you're on, then you go on deck, then you're at bat, and then you drive in runs, and then you come back to the batting cage. That's the 5 steps, right? Now each one of those has meanings. When you grab your bat, that's really having a focus of a win-win mindset, right? When you're on deck, you're thinking about what can I control, what can I not control. I can't control who's pitching. I can't control who's in the field. I can't control who's in front of me or if there's runners on base. So the mindset of controlling the controllables. Well, then you're at bat. Well, then it's about assessing and responding. Are there runners on base? Who is pitching? And what am I going to do about it? If this is a pitcher that I'm not going to hit a home run on, maybe I just want to advance the runner. Or if there's even a runner on base. And then the whole RBI concept is with runners on base, what can I do to drive them in? It's not about me having glory or me hitting the home run. It's about how can I get that runner in? And then once you do that, you go back to the batting cage and assess and have reflective growth of how you can get better moving forward. And that's really the 5-tool framework in 30 seconds, Hal.
But what happens when the manager says, I need you to bunt? There's runners on a first and second, nobody out, but you want to hit the home run. How do you have to change your approach there and your attitude?
Well, and that's the step 3 and 4 of the 5-tool framework, right? I mean, that's really your at bat, and you have to assess and respond. What is your manager wanting you to do? In my circumstance, like what do people that I care about want me to do? Like my wife or my kids in certain situations in life, or some of my leaders within my businesses that run these businesses for me. A lot of times I'm wanting something, they're wanting something else. I'm at bat. I got to assess and respond, and having the thought control to focus on how do I drive in runs, which is step 4, is really to help the teams. The sacrificial elements is and commitment elements is really what step 4 is all about. And that's a great example. Like manager tells you, hey, we need this there's runner on third. I know you want to hit a home run, but you really just need to hit the ball the opposite field, maybe a fly ball, and get a sacrifice fly.
So like you said, it's really about being a good team player and being selfless and serving others.
Correct. And especially when it comes to like thinking about the relationships on the home front, right? And family. I have two kids. One's an adult. One's finishing up high school. And as I reflect on parenting, moments where I could have done things better in that step 3 and 4, where I'm at bat and I'm trying to drive in runs. Am I doing that as a parent? As a kid, if you're a listener and you're in high school or you're in junior high, what are you doing to help your folks out? those types of elements. If you have that sort of cultural mindset around the winsome approach, the impact is transcendent. And that's really what we try to do at the True North family of companies as well. So it applies to business. So that's what being winsome is all about.
Now, Brian, you're in the States, I'm in Canada. Next time we chat, let's use a hockey analogy instead of baseball, all right? Let's do that.
Well, it's funny because one of my employees is a former NHL hockey player, and he's always translating the baseball, because near and dear to me, to a hockey analogy. And so I shared with him that we had some of these coming up, and they were even expressing we need to have more hockey analogies.
Can you say who that is? Which player? Any former NHL player?
Yeah. Nate Prosser. He played for the Wild for a lot, and a couple other teams for 11 years in the NHL.
Oh, very cool. Brian Slipka is the author of Winsome: 5 Proven Strategies to Win in Relationships. Thanks so much for joining us today from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Thank you so much, Hal. Appreciate being here.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.